It's Thursday, May the 9th. Lake level is a little over 918. It's been, coming up and down quite a bit the last few days. They've still got floodgates open, moving a ton of water. Water temperature, depends where you're at on the lake, anywhere from 65 degrees to low 70s. There's a lot happening. The fish are still, a lot of them right in the middle of the spawn. The shad spawn is happening. The topwater bite's starting to happen. Fish are in the bushes. Kind of a lot of different bites going on. But with that shad spawn going on, it's usually early in the morning, first few hours. And I think I mentioned it last week, but them shad will actually spawn on the floats of the boat docks, around the hardwood trees. And even out in the middle of the lake with all the debris that we've got in some of the river arms, you'll see the shad spawning out there in the main channel. They basically just lay their eggs on that wood out there that's floating. But they're also up there in the bushes, so if you get around where you see a lot of shad flickering in, and normally you can hear them, they make a lot of noise when they're in them boat dock stalls. A lot of baits will work good. I'll try a topwater. A chatterbait will work good. I like most of the time something with some white in it. Spinnerbait will work, swim jig, little swim baits. Just gotta, kind of mix it up to see what'll work. But normally, especially now where we're getting some of them fish that are done spawning, they're moving out there and they're not really going deep, but they're starting to move out over that deeper water and suspend. And if that bait's out there, they'll be out there chasing them. So if you can't catch them on a topwater, try a little swim bait like a missiles bait, shockwave, a Kitech, or any of your like Strike King Rage swim baits. And I usually like about a 2.75 or 3.3 in that range with a 1/4 ounce head and throwing it on light line. Now the water being up in the bushes has been a lot of fun. There's still fish spawning right up in the middle of the bushes. And the water clarity, it changes almost daily. I mean, I was up in the James, I think, Monday and Tuesday. And up above Cape Fear, the water had a nice green color to it. I went up there yesterday and it was almost orange. It was so brown. But I'm finding you either got to get below the nasty looking water or just keep going further up the river arms till you get into clean water. Sometimes when the water's coming in like it is, it's hard to get above it. So like yesterday, we just went down and got into the better looking water, further down river. But in the bushes, the water level's perfect. And you don't have to be in a river arm. It'll work all over the lake. Some arms of the lake have got more stain than others, but with it pulling so much water through the lake, that stain is starting to come down into the areas that are normally gin clear. And, I'm just looking in areas where I feel the fish are spawning. One of my favorite baits to throw when the fish are in the bushes like this is a creature bait, like a beaver style bait. I've been throwing a lot of missiles, D-bomb, Reaction Renovations beaver, or a Strike King Rage bug. And the color of the bait just depends on the color of the water. If I've got a lot of stain, I'll throw a black and blue. If the water's clear, I'll throw like a California 420 or an Okeechobee craw. And I'm pegging the weight with a bobber stopper, and I'm usually using a 1/4 ounce to 5/16 weight. The fish aren't very deep in the bushes, and for the most part, the bite is pretty light. You got to flip it in the bushes, and I'll just pop it a couple times. If I don't get a bite, I'll reel it up and flip it into the next one. Some of the fish are picking the bait up and swimming with it, but most of them you'll just either feel a little tick, it almost just feels like the branch, or it'll just be heavy. I think, like I say, a lot of them fish are in there spawning. Those fish don't seem to be picking the bait up and swimming with it. They're just kind of holding on to it. Another bait that'll work good in the same area, you can also throw a jig up in there too. But I like a Texas rig bait. I think it comes through a lot of that buckbrush and stuff a lot better than a jig. A lot of times the hook doesn't get stuck on a jig, but it depends on the head design. It'll get stuck in between two branches. And I feel a Texas rig does a little bit better. But I'll kind of do the same thing, but with a Cinco style bait. And a lot of times on it, I'll use an 1/8 ounce to 3/16, and I'll still peg the weight. This is a watermelon red for water that's fairly clear. If I get into some dirty water, I'll throw the black and blue. And you know, there's a lot of pros and cons on pegging the weight. I prefer to peg it when I'm in that buckbrush like that, because a lot of times, if you just Texas rig it, the bait can lay on top of one of the little branches and the weight will go down. But by pegging it, your weight and your bait's going to get through the buckbrush and get down to where the fish are. So, you know, even like a lizard, the 6-inch lizard will work. I like a lot of plastic baits versus a jig this time of year. You know, whether it be a creature style bait, lizard, you know, versus the jig. But as them fish, you know, starting to get done spawning, they're starting to get out there on that gravel, catching a lot more fish on the swim baits, football jigs out there in that 12 to 18 foot of water, and that should continue to get better, and some of them will start to move a little deeper. I fished down lake a few days this weekend, still catching a lot of fish out there in that 8 to 15 foot on tubes, Ned rigs, and even flukes if you get the right day. You know, there's still a ton of fish up there shallow. Like I say, some of them are still spawning, some of them are hanging around the areas where they spawn, garden fry. So, I mean, it's really a good time to be fishing shallow with the water up like it is. And even in that gin clear water, you can flip them fish out of them bushes. Kind of amazing sometimes. You'll be able to see the bottom, but you'll flip a jig or bait, tube bait or creature bait in there, and then all of a sudden you'll see a flash, you know, or your line will take off. But just a really good time to, you know, a lot of times when the water comes up like this, we always got to wonder whether the fish are going to come up with the water, if they've already moved out. The good thing about the water coming up right now, the fish were already shallow. They're in the middle of the spawn. So as the water came up, a lot of them came right up with it, you know, made their beds in the bushes, you know, 1 foot or 2 foot deep. And there was already, like I say, even if the fish weren't spawning, they were already up there garden fry. So there's a lot of fish up there shallow, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And, you know, another way you can try catch them is fishing the edge of the flooded cover with a little square bill. You know, spinnerbait, especially in that nasty cold water. And, oh, I don't have spinnerbait handy right here, but, you know, I'll match the spinnerbait according to the water. If it's real nasty looking water, I'll throw some, like Colorado blades. If the water's a little clearer, I'll throw like a double willow leaf, 1 nickel, 1 gold, you know, try to more of a shad color. So I'll just kind of, you know, I'll throw like a coleslaw, which is white blades with a white and orange skirt in the dirtier water. So I just kind of mix the skirt and the blade combination up with the water that I'm fishing. You know, it looks like they've been able to keep the water pretty stable with as much rain and as much generation, and with the floodgates open, it's been staying, you know, 917, it's got up to 918 last night. But so the good thing, they've been holding it here. Fish should get a good spawn off and should have a lot of good fun in the bushes for the next week or so. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.